there is a word hiding in the Gospel of Luke. Not hiding like a secret, hiding like a signature. The kind a painter leaves in the corner of a canvas, small enough that most people walk past it, significant enough that once you see it, you realize it changes everything about the painting. The word is Greek. It is 2 syllables. And Luke, a physician from Antioch, a man who had spent his career watching bodies fail slowly, watching fevers climb and infections spread, and limbs go still. Luke uses this word at every single turning point in his gospel. Not once, not twice, but over and over, at the exact moment when heaven touches earth, when the impossible becomes ordinary, when a person who has been suffering for years stops suffering. Luke reaches for this word. The word is Euthys, or in its longer form, Euthios. It means immediately. It means at once. It means without delay. And here is what you need to understand before we go any further. This is not a grammar lesson. This is not a word study. This is not a coincidence. This is a pattern Luke embedded in his gospel on purpose, because Luke was not just a historian and not just a physician. He was a theologian with a scalpel. And every time he writes Euthys, he is making a claim about the character of God. The claim is this: when God moves, he does not hesitate. Now, before we walk through the stories, and there are stories in this gospel that will stop you cold, I want to plant something in your mind. There is a woman in the book of Luke who spent 18 years unable to lift her head. 18 years of looking at the ground. 18 years of seeing nothing but dust and sandals, and the hem of other people's robes. We will come back to her. Because what happens the moment Jesus sees her, the 15 seconds that follow, may be the most important passage in the entire book of Luke. But we are not there yet. We start in a house in Capernaum. We start with a fever. We start with something small, the kind of small that Luke uses to teach you something enormous. Because that is how Luke works. He begins with one woman in one room. And by the time he is finished, you are not thinking about that room anymore. You are thinking about your own life. You are thinking about the thing you have been waiting on. You are thinking about how long is too long, and whether the waiting itself is the answer. It is not. Luke is about to show you why. The house belongs to Simon Peter. You need to picture it correctly, because Luke is precise about details, and he wants you to see this. It is not large. It is a stone house in Capernaum, a fishing town on the northern edge of the Sea of Galilee, a working town, not a wealthy one. The kind of place where the walls smell like salt water and dried fish, and the floors are packed earth. Simon Peter lives here with his wife, and his wife's mother lives here too. And on this particular day, the mother-in-law is in bed with a fever so severe that the people in the house come to Jesus the moment he walks through the door and tell him about her. Not as a request, exactly. More like a report. Like they want him to know what he is walking into. Jesus walks to where she is lying. He stands over her. And Luke tells us he rebuked the fever. The same word Luke uses when Jesus rebukes demons, rebukes storms, rebukes the chaos that human beings cannot control on their own. He does not pray over her for an extended time. He does not lay hands on her and wait. He rebukes the fever. And then Luke writes the word, Euthys. Immediately she rose.
Do not be afraid.
Not gradually.
Your faith
Not over the following
has made
days,
you well.
the way fevers usually break. Slowly, with relapses, with weakness that lingers for weeks. Immediately. And here is the detail that matters more than people realize. She rose and began to serve them. Luke is not just recording a healing. He is recording a restoration. This woman does not need a recovery period. She does not need to ease back into normal life. The moment Jesus speaks, she is fully herself again, not just breathing without pain, but back in the room, back in her purpose, back in the life that the fever had taken from her. That is what Euthys means in this story. It does not just mean fast. It means complete. Stay with me, because the next story raises the stakes considerably. Some time later, Jesus is walking, and a man approaches him from the side of the road. Luke does not give this man a name, which is itself significant, because in the ancient world, a man with leprosy had already lost his name in every way that mattered. He had lost his place in the synagogue. He had lost his seat at his family's table. He had lost the right to stand within shouting distance of people who were ritually clean, which meant nearly everyone. The law required him to announce his own uncleanliness if he came near others. Imagine living that way. Imagine the weight of having to declare your own contamination every time you got close enough to another human being, to feel their warmth. This man has been living that way for, Luke does not tell us how long. Long enough that his entire identity has collapsed into one word: leper. He comes to Jesus and falls on his face. And he says something that theologians have been sitting with for 2,000 years. He does not say, "If you are willing, you can heal me." He says, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean."
Made you whole.
Clean. Not healed.
Rise up, my son.
Clean. He knows what his real problem is.
Hear
The
my
leprosy
prayer,
is terrible.
O Lord.
But the uncleanness,
Turn your face
the
from me
exile,
in my
the exclusion, the being cut off from God and people, that the law attached to his condition, that is the wound, underneath the wound. Jesus reaches out and touches him. A touch. Before he says a single word, he touches the man that no one has touched in years. And then he says, "I am willing. Be clean." And Luke writes the word again. Euthys. Immediately the leprosy left him. Here is what most people miss. In the law of Moses, touching a leper made you unclean. Contact with contamination spread the contamination. That was the logic of the purity system. But when Jesus touches this man, the contamination does not spread to Jesus. The cleanness spreads to the man. The direction reverses. Holiness moves outward. And it moves, Euthys, immediately, without hesitation, without a waiting period, without any delay between the touch and the restoration. God does not make the unclean wait to become clean. That is the theological statement, hiding inside a two-syllable Greek word. Now we are in a house so crowded that 4 men have climbed onto the roof. You know this story. But stay with it a moment longer, because the detail Luke adds is the one that changes the meaning. The house is full of Pharisees and teachers of the law. Luke specifically tells us they have come from every village in Galilee, from Judea, from Jerusalem. They are watching.
Why do you doubt these things?
They are evaluating.
Have you not read what the
They are the
prophet
kind of
wrote?
people who
We
treat
have
every
read them,
miracle
Rabbi.
like an examination
We find your
question,
interpretation
looking for the
troubling.
error, the overreach, the claim that goes too far. And into this room, through the roof, on a mat, lowered by 4 friends who refuse to let a crowd be the last word on their friend's condition, comes a paralyzed man.
Who is that on the mat?
Jesus
I have
looks
never
at him,
seen anything
and he
like
does not
this.
say, "Be
Take
healed."
courage, son. Your
He
sins
says,
are forgiven.
"Man, your sins are
Rise.
forgiven."
Take up your mat and go.
The room
home.
goes cold. The
My
Pharisees
son,
do not say it
be
aloud,
of good
but Luke
cheer.
tells us what they are thinking.
Your sins are forgiven.
Who is this who speaks blasphemy? Who can forgive sins but God alone? Jesus knows what they are thinking. He answers the thought they haven't spoken. He
Your
says,
heart is
which is
clearly
easier,
corrupt
to
speak
say your
such
sins are
lies.
forgiven, or to say
There is
rise and
no
walk?
forgiveness for this transgression.
But so that you may know that the Son
Why
of
do you
Man has
question these
authority on
things in your
earth to forgive
hearts?
sins,
Is it easier to say
he
your
turns to the
sins are
paralyzed
forgiven,
man.
or to say
Rise,
rise up
pick
and
up your
walk?
mat, go home.
Son, your
And Luke
sins
writes the
are
word
forgiven.
one more time,
Rise,
Euthys.
take up your mat.
Immediately,
and
he
go
rose up
home.
before them. Before them. Luke is precise. The man does not slip out quietly. He rises in full view of the people, who came to find an error, and finds, instead, that they are watching a man carry the mat he arrived on, walking out of the room under his own power, glorifying God with every step. The word breaks into the middle of human skepticism. It does not wait for permission. 3 stories, 3 moments where everything changes in an instant. A fever rebuked, a leper made clean, a paralyzed man rising in front of the people who came to prove it couldn't be done. And in every single one, Luke reaches for the same word, Euthys. Immediately, at once, without delay. You are starting to see the pattern. And we are only halfway through. If this is the kind of content that makes you look at your Bible differently, that makes you see things you walked past 100 times, consider subscribing. It means you will not miss what is coming next. Because the next 2 stories share a chapter, share a number, and together they may be the strangest and most beautiful thing Luke ever wrote. Stay with me. Luke chapter 8 contains 2 stories that are locked together like a hinge. They are not separate episodes placed near each other for convenience. Luke weaves them deliberately. One story begins, then stops, then another story interrupts it, and then the first story resumes. It is the only time in his gospel Luke structures a narrative this way. And the number that connects them, the number that runs through both stories like a thread, is 12. 12 years. Hold that number. A man named Jairus is walking toward Jesus through a crowd so thick that Luke says the people were nearly crushing him. Jairus is not a nobody. He is a ruler of the synagogue, a position of significant religious authority, a man who in any other circumstance would be the one people approached, not the other way around. But his daughter is dying. And so this powerful man pushes through a crowd and falls at the feet of Jesus in the dirt and begs.
Master, if you are
His
the one
daughter
sent
is
from
12
God,
years
help my
old.
son, for he is
She is his
grievously
only
ill.
child.
Rise up. Your
Luke,
faith is
the
great,
physician,
and your
notes
son
her
will live.
age with clinical
O Lord,
precision. 12
Hear
years
my
old,
desperate
which means
cry.
Jairus has had exactly
Have mercy.
12 years to love this
Look
girl,
upon your servant.
12 years to watch her grow. And now he is watching those 12 years end in a sick room while he stands outside feeling helpless. He begs Jesus to come to his house. Jesus goes. And that is when the interruption happens. Somewhere in the crowd, pressing against Jesus, there is a woman. Luke does not give her a name. What he gives her is a number. 12 years. For 12 years, this woman has had a flow of blood that would not stop. 12 years of a condition that, under Levitical law, rendered her ritually unclean every single day, which means 12 years of being unable to enter the temple courts, unable to participate in the festivals, unable to touch another person without transferring her uncleanness to them. 12 years of being, in the eyes of her community, perpetually contaminated. She has spent everything she had on physicians. Luke is a physician himself, and he does not spare the detail. She could not be helped by any of them. 12 years, and not one of them could do what needed to be done. She reaches through the crowd and touches the hem of Jesus' robe. And Luke writes the word, Euthys. Immediately, her bleeding stopped. She feels it in her body before she can process it in her mind. 12 years of bleeding. 12 years of waking up every morning to the same condition, the same exclusion, the same slow erosion of hope. And then one touch, and Euthys, and it is over. Here is what most people miss about this moment. Jesus stops. In the middle of an urgent journey to a dying girl, Jesus stops and asks who touched him. The disciples think the question is almost absurd. There are dozens of people pressing against him from every direction. But Jesus is not asking because he doesn't know. He is asking because he wants her to step forward. He wants her to be seen. He wants this woman who has been invisible for 12 years to stand in front of a crowd and receive not just healing, but acknowledgement. He calls her daughter. He tells the crowd what she did, and what happened, and why. He gives her back her name before she has even told him what it is. And then, only then, does the message arrive from Jairus' house. Your daughter is dead. Don't trouble the teacher anymore.
Forgive my
12 years
intrusion.
old.
I
Gone.
am afraid your son is
Jesus
gone.
turns to Jairus, and he says something that, given everything Jairus has just watched happen to this woman, lands differently than it would have 5 minutes ago. Don't be afraid. Only believe. They go to the house. The mourners are already there, already weeping. Jesus says she is not dead but sleeping, and they laugh at him. The kind of laugh that has no humor in it. The laugh of people who have seen enough death to know what it looks like. Jesus takes her by the hand, and Luke writes the word again. Her spirit returned, and she got up at once. Parakrima, Luke's other word for immediacy. At once, that very moment, same theological signature, different syllables. Jairus' daughter, 12 years old, gets up off the mat where she died. And Jesus tells them to give her something to eat. That last detail, give her something to eat, is Luke the physician speaking. He wants you to know she is not a ghost. She is not a vision. She is a girl who is hungry, standing in her own house, very much alive. 2 women, 1 number, 2 Euthys moments in a single chapter. And Luke is making a point that goes beyond the miracles themselves. The woman with the issue of blood was at the bottom of every social hierarchy that mattered in first-century Judea. Female, unclean, unnamed, broke. Jairus was at the top. Male, named, powerful, respected. And the word that describes God's response to both of them is identical. Euthys. Immediately. Without delay. God does not have a separate cue for the important and the forgotten. The powerful man on his knees and the invisible woman reaching through a crowd receive the same word. The same speed. The same complete and total response. What? If you're someone who has ever felt like you were too small, too broken, too far outside the lines to be worth immediate attention, Luke chapter 8 was written for you. And if this is landing for you today, share it with someone who is in a waiting season. Someone who needs to hear that the delay is not the verdict. Because what comes next, the story we have been building toward since the very first minute of this video, is the one that will stay with you. Now we come back to her. The woman we planted at the very beginning. The one I told you we would return to. The one who spent 18 years unable to lift her head. Luke chapter 13, verse 10. Jesus is teaching in a synagogue on the Sabbath. And in the crowd, standing among the people who have gathered to hear him, present enough to be there, but bent so far forward she cannot see the faces around her, only the floor. There is a woman Luke describes with painful precision. She has had a disabling spirit for 18 years. She is bent double. She cannot straighten herself up at all. 18 years. Not 12. 18. She has been looking at the ground since before some of the people in that synagogue were born. She has not seen a horizon in 18 years. She has not looked another person in the eye in 18 years. She has not lifted her face to the sky, or watched a sunset, or seen the expression on someone's face when they speak to her. Not in 18 years. And here is the detail that wrecks me every time I read it. Luke does not say she came to Jesus. Luke does not say she pushed through the crowd, or called out to him, or sent word, or fell at his feet. She is simply there. Present. In the synagogue on the Sabbath, the way she probably has been every Sabbath for 18 years. There, but barely. Bent. Enduring. Showing up to the house of God, even when the house of God has not seemed to notice her. Jesus sees her. He does not wait for her to find him. He does not wait for someone to bring her forward. He sees her across the room and he calls to her. And then, before she has crossed the room, before she has said a word, before she has asked for anything, he speaks.
Come forward.
Woman, you are freed from your disability. He lays his hands on her. And Luke writes the word, Euthys. Immediately, she was made straight. 18 years. And then Euthys. 18 years of looking at the ground. And then one moment, one touch, one word, and she lifts her head. Think about what she sees. For the first time in 18 years, she sees faces. She sees the ceiling of the synagogue. She sees light coming through the windows at an angle she has not seen since she was young enough to stand straight. She sees Jesus looking at her, not down at her, not past her, at her. And then Jesus says something that is not a healing. It is a declaration. He calls her daughter of Abraham. This is not a small thing. This is not a courtesy title. In the mouth of a Jewish teacher in a first-century synagogue, daughter of Abraham means you belong. It means you are inside the covenant, not outside it. It means your 18 years of suffering did not disqualify you from the family of God. It means the bent posture was never your identity. You were always a daughter. You were always His. She had not asked to be healed. She had not even asked to be seen. He saw her anyway. He called her anyway. He freed her anyway. And He named her daughter of Abraham, before the ruler of the synagogue could finish his objection about healing on the Sabbath. This is not a story about a miracle. This is not a story about a Sabbath controversy. This is not a story about the religious establishment getting it wrong again. This is a story about 18 years of waiting, and one morning in a synagogue, and a word that means immediately. Some of you have been looking down for a long time. Not at the ground, not literally. But you know what I mean. You have been looking at your diagnosis, and the diagnosis is the only thing you can see. You have been looking at your loss, and the loss fills your entire field of vision. You have been looking at the version of yourself that failed, that collapsed, that could not hold it together. And you have been looking at that version so long that you have forgotten there was ever a horizon. You have been showing up. The way this woman showed up to the synagogue. Not because things were good, not because you felt hopeful, but because you did not know what else to do. You kept showing up. Luke wants you to know something. He is a physician. He has sat with people in the long middle of suffering. He has watched bodies deteriorate and hope drain away and time pass without resolution. He chose this word, Euthys, not because he was naive about how long suffering can last, but because he had seen what happened when Jesus entered a room. When God moves, He moves without delay. 18 years. And then Euthys. You do not know what morning is coming. You do not know which Tuesday, which ordinary Sabbath, which unremarkable moment is the one where you lift your head and see faces again. But Luke, who watched more suffering than most of us ever will, sat down with his papyrus and his physician's precision, and wrote the same word over and over at every turning point in his gospel. Immediately, at once, without delay. He wrote it because he had seen it. He wrote it because it was true. And he wrote it because he wanted you, sitting exactly where you are sitting right now, carrying exactly what you are carrying, to know that the God of Euthys has not changed. Three things to take with you. First, Luke chose this word with intention. Euthys, immediately, is not filler. It is not a stylistic habit. Luke is a physician and a historian, and he does not waste words. Every time he writes Euthys, he is making a theological claim that the God of the Bible, when He moves, moves without hesitation. The immediacy is not accidental. It is the point. Second, your waiting season is not God's verdict on you. The woman with the issue of blood waited 12 years. The bent woman waited 18. Their waiting was not punishment. It was not evidence of forgottenness. It was not the final word. And whatever you are carrying into this week, whatever has been true of your life for longer than you think you can bear, it is not the final word either. Third, the bent woman showed up to the synagogue on what looked like an ordinary Sabbath. She did not know it was the day. She could not have known. She just kept showing up. And Jesus saw her across the room before she ever saw him. That is the God Luke is writing about. The one who sees you before you find him. The one for whom Euthys is not a promise about timing. It is a statement about character. He does not hesitate. He does not delay. He does not make you wait one moment longer than necessary. Which Euthys moment in this video hit you the hardest? The leper made clean before he could finish asking? The bent woman lifted after 18 years? Tell me in the comments below. I read every one. Luke wrote with a physician's eye and a theologian's precision. He knew what delay costs. He had held the hands of people for whom help came too late. And he also knew, because he had seen it, because he had documented it, because he had given his life to telling this story, what it looks like when Euthys finally arrives. It looks like a woman straightening her back for the first time in 18 years. It looks like a face turning toward the light.